Does cell phone use increase your risk of cancer? It's a hot-button debate. The latest development, a memo from Dr. Ronald Herbermann, director of the University of Pittsburgh Cancer Institute, offering precautionary advice on cell phone use to his faculty and his staff. We welcome to Larry King Live Dr. Deborah Davis, director of the Center for Environmental Oncology at the University of Pittsburgh's Cancer Institute, Dr. Keith Black, chairman of the Department of Neurosurgery and director of the Maxine Dunitz Neurosurgical Institute at Cedars-Sinai in L.A., and also from L.A., Dr. Paul Song, radiation oncologist. Dr. Davis has this new book, The Secret History of the War on Cancer. All right, Dr. Davis, what do you make of Dr. Herbermann's memo?
Well, I'm very...
Should frighten everybody.
Well, we don't want to frighten people. We want people to take precautions. That's the reason he wrote the memo.
Precautions being?
Well, to use an earpiece and to not keep your phone on your body all the time, and to make sure that children are not using cell phones. Young children particularly need to be careful, and particularly toddlers who now have cell phones that they use to play with. This is a really bad idea.
What led Dr. Herbermann to this finding?
Well, he looked at the literature and was aware of the growing concerns that we do not have enough information, nor do we have enough time to be sure that cell phones are safe, and there's reason for concern that they may be harmful, so we need to take some precaution rather than waiting to experiment on the rest of us.
Dr. Black, meaning if they are harmful, we don't know why they're harmful, right?
Well, we know that microwave radiation can damage cells. One of the recent studies from Sweden show that if you use cell phones for a period of 10 years, an hour a day, that your risk may be increased as much as twofold.
We have millions of cell phones in use now. Has there been an increase in brain cancer?
It's been an increased reported incidence, and that may be related to better MRI scans or more frequent use of CT scans, but we don't expect to, at this early stage, I mean, we've only been using cell phones with a high frequency for less than 10 years. Again, based on the biology that we know with the development of cancer, the real concern is what happens after 20, 30, 40 years. And that's why I think the University of Pittsburgh advised us to be cautious.
Dr. Song, so what would you say to people who use cell phones?
I think the most important thing is the duration of your exposure. So clearly, if you're on the cell phone for a long period of time, I think we all have been in situations where our ear gets warm. That clearly means that maybe we're on a little bit too long. But people need to keep in mind that if the phone is on the hip pocket, their whole body is still being exposed to the same amount of radiation that it would be if it was up to their ear. It's just that their brain...
What choice of cancer do I want? Hip or brain?
Well, surprisingly, the concern about radio frequency exposure is not so much for the brain or the hip, but really either the testes or the eyes. Those are the areas that are most sensitive to radio frequency because they get hot and they don't have the blood vessels to cool off.
What about 8 and 9, 10-year-olds all over elementary school running around with them now?
Well, right now, unfortunately, of the 28 million children in this country who between the ages of 8 and 12, about half of them are using a cell phone. Sometimes it's their mom and dad's, but using it frequently. And we're all very concerned about that because we know that the cell signal gets deeply into the brain of a child.
You concerned, Dr. Black, about the child?
Yes, I am. We know that young brains may be more susceptible. And they have a longer exposure, and some of the studies have also suggested that the longer exposure, the higher the risk.
We now welcome in Atlanta Dr. Sanjay Gupta, CNN's chief medical correspondent, a practicing neurosurgeon himself. Dr. Gupta wanted to add something about cell phones and children. Doctor?
Well, you know, one thing that Dr. Brawley brought up is this idea that it's electromagnetic radiation that can be of concern. And Larry, I know you like pictures. Sometimes they can be worth 1,000 words. Take a look here. This was actually from a study looking at the amount of penetration of this electromagnetic radiation in a 5-year-old over here. You certainly see that it's more. This is the brain, and this is the amount of radiation penetrating into the brain. Compare it to a 10-year-old and compare it to an adult. But the question is, what is this really doing to a young child's brain? A lot of these studies being done on adults. And now you have children using these phones, and they're going to use them their entire lives. They're going to have 60, 70 years of usage. What is the effect of that amount of penetration of radiation on the brain?
Another neurosurgeon joins us. He's in Canberra, Australia. He's Dr. Vinny Khurana. He's Associate Professor of Neurosurgery at the Canberra Hospital. Dr. Khurana, you say that the danger of cell phones could have far broader health ramifications than asbestos and smoking. What do you base it on?
Base it on the fact, Larry, that at this point in time there's just over 3 billion users of cell phones worldwide. And the concern is not just brain tumours, but other health effects associated or reported to be associated with cell phones, including behavioural disturbances, salivary gland tumours, male infertility, and microwave sickness syndrome. So there are other health effects. And with so many users, and users starting at the age of 3 and up now, we should be concerned, and I stand by those comments.
Dr. Black, would you comment on what he just said?
I do think that he raises a very important concern. I think particularly among young people using cell phones, and I think the concern among other types of neurological problems other than brain cancer, because, you know, a microwave antenna is very similar to a microwave oven. It's heating the brain. So we don't know what long-term effects that will have on memory as our young adults age.
So this is a cause of concern.
Other neurological problems.
I want you to look at something on the screen now. We know that brain tumors are the #1 cancer killer among children in the United States and the second most common form of cancer in kids.